It's that time again. Welcome to the best webinar in town, HumanWare Live. Let's introduce your host from the windy city of Chicago. Currently sheltering in place, please welcome HumanWare's brand ambassador of blindness products, Peter Tusick. And from all the way across the pond, also sheltering in place, but doing so with everyone's favorite accent, please welcome HumanWare's Braille product manager, Andrew Flattress.
Awesome. Happy Thursday to everybody. This is Peter Tusick, brand ambassador of blindness products for HumanWare. Andrew, how are you, Mr. Product Manager?
Fantastic. The sun is shining. I'm with yourself. I'm with our audience. It's fantastic.
That's right. Living the dream. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. The first 6, we've already done 6 of these, Andrew, but the first 6 of them, we focused on the BrailleNote Touch Plus. Today, we are going to be focusing on the Brilliant Braille displays, and I'm going to be using a Brilliant 40. I will be talking about the equivalent commands on a Brilliant 14. I'm going to be talking about JAWS, but we also absolutely can work with NVDA or VoiceOver on a Mac. And Andrew will be showing that with an iPhone. Now, what you have noticed, and maybe you already have if you've tried to raise your hand, or if you have tried to put a chat into the chat box, there is no chat and there is no hand raising. And it is not because we are not democratic here at HumanWare, but because I'm going to be sharing my screen and thus sharing my audio, sharing JAWS, we've turned that off so that my JAWS can come through to the meeting and I won't be interrupted with the chats and with the hand raising and all of that. You may hear some entries and exits and I will try to mute those as fast as possible. But that is why there is no chat today and there is no ability for hand raising. We will turn that on, right? We're not here to lock anyone out. We will take questions and we will turn that on once I'm done. So once I'm done with some web browsing, at that point we'll turn that back on. So please bear with us, and we know there's no chat and we know there's no hand raising, and that is kind of why. So otherwise you would hear lots and lots and lots of jabber, and for the audio archive later, as well as the video archive, it would get kind of cluttery and very confusing. So I'm going to share my screen at this point, and you will hear my JAWS, and we're going to share my sound. All right. Andrew, do you hear my JAWS for Windows? All right. So what I'm going to do, and again, this part of the program, ladies and gentlemen and friends and everybody who's out there, is going to be dealing with Braille displays. So I'm going to briefly show you where to go to pair or connect or add a Braille display to JAWS. You can use a BrailleNote Touch or BrailleNote Touch Plus as a Braille display with JAWS or NVDA. You can also use, I'm using a Brilliant 40, or you could use a Brilliant 14. You could also, if you still have one of the older Brilliant 32s or many Braille displays over the years, you can pair them with JAWS. Now, before I get into actual commands, I'm going to show you where to quickly add a Braille display. This will differ based on how you want to connect. You could do this via Bluetooth, you could do this via USB. If you're looking for specifics, you're definitely going to want to get in touch with tech support. They will be able to help you if you need to install drivers, if you're very much unsure of where to go. But I'll show you how to kind of get everything started, and that is, we want to bring the JAWS window into focus. So I'm going to do that.
JAWS Professional.
And I'm going to slow my speech down as well because it's flying, and I know many people don't want flying crazy fast.
Faster, slower.
We're going to bring it down
Slower.
to about here. All right. Now, when I'm in the JAWS window, if I open my menu bar, so if I press Alt, and we're going to learn the JAWS equivalent for pressing Alt in a moment on the Braille display, but if I press Alt on the keyboard,
Menu bar options.
I'm going to bring up my menu bar and I will come down to Braille.
Menu options menu. Voices submenu. Braille .
So again, I'm just pressing my down arrow to get here. I press Enter on Braille.
Enter. Leaving menus. Braille basic settings dialog. The active Braille display is Brilliant by default. Braille display : combo box. BrailleNote Touch 404.
So you heard a couple of things here. The active Braille display that I'm using is Brilliant BI. My default or some would say default, Braille display is the BrailleNote Touch. So you can use multiple Braille displays depending on what you're doing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through and actually see that if I press tab,
Modify settings,
I can modify settings on my display, or if I press tab again,
add Braille display, button,
I
Alt
can
plus
add a Braille display here. So if I press enter,
enter. Select components dialog.
it's going to ask me what type of Braille display I want to add. If I press B, there's a big list of Braille displays here, but if I press B a bunch of times, let's say 4 or 5 times,
Bomb, BrailleNote left
right,
parent
we're
sign.
going to see the BrailleNote drivers.
Orbit reader.
We're going to see the
Brilliant.
BI. We'll see the Brilliant 14, and at the very bottom,
Not selected. Brilliant by checked.
we're going to have the Brilliant BI and
BrailleNote
BrailleNote
Touch check.
So again, you can choose the proper Braille display, and then you would tab to add, and you would have to then pick your port. So again, this is where you will probably, if you are lost, you're going to have to get in touch with tech support to find out what COM port is your Braille display using. And even if you're using Bluetooth, you need to identify that. You also may have to install a driver depending on the model of Braille display you're using, but this is where you go to do it in JAWS. I'm going to leave this
Escape.
window.
Braille basic setting. Escape. JAWS professional.
All right, now, again, very, very, very quick sort of 30,000-foot overview of where to go to set it up. You may need to install a driver for JAWS. Generally, though, if you're using the Brilliant 14, if you're using the BrailleNote Touch Plus, if you're using a lot of the modern Braille displays, you can plug and play if they're using the Open Braille protocol. That is available on the Brilliant BI as well. So if you're using a Brilliant BI 40 or a Brilliant BI 32, you can use those as Open Braille, and that means really plug and play. You don't have to install drivers and things with newer versions of JAWS. So please reach out to tech support if you're having issues. All right, now once I am paired, everything that I do will have Braille output. Well, hopefully everything, until I get into some inaccessible places, but again, for another time. But once I'm connected on the Brilliant 40, there are command keys to the left and right of the Braille display, in addition to the Braille keyboard, which are the keys where we enter Braille or type. So the command keys emulate Braille cells. So if you think about the left side of your Braille display, all the way on that left top edge, you have 3 command keys from top to bottom, 1, 2, 3. And on the right side, you have 4, 5, and 6, again, to the left and right of your Braille display, not the Braille keyboard. Those command keys will drive various functions in JAWS and in different places. And I'll talk about some of those basic functions, and you can also use the Braille keyboard to control some of those functions as well. So when we look at something as simple as getting to our desktop, right? We know we have icons there, and we want to learn how to move around and look at the icons on our desktop using the Braille keyboard and using the actual Braille display. If I press command keys, so again, not the Braille keyboard keys, but command keys 1, 4, and 5, I will move my focus to the desktop.
Meeting controls.
So I'm going to press
desktop, folder view, list view, not selected, recycle bin, 1 of 15.
I have 15 icons here on my desktop. Now we hear that the desktop is in focus, and we hear I have 15 items. So again, command keys 1, 4, and 5. If you're using a Brilliant 14, that command is space with the letter D. So space with 1, 4, 5 brings you to the desktop. On the Brilliant 40 or 32, it's space with dots 1, 4, 5. All of these command summaries, if you're saying, well, how do I do it on a BrailleNote Touch, or I have a Touch Plus, or I have an Apex, those things exist as well. So if you need help, again, you can reach out to tech support. You can also send an email to humanwarelive@humanware.com, and we can help you obtain that list of commands. What I'm going to talk about is some basic navigation. So if I want to move down or use my down arrow, again, you can always push the keys on your actual keyboard, but if you want to use your Braille display, if I press .4 with space,
40 client, 4
I'm
of
moving
15.
down my list of icons.
FS Reader 3.0, 5 of 15.
And so on. And the opposite of .4 would be .1. So .1 with space emulates my up arrow.
40 client, 4 of 15. Recycle bin, 1 of 15.
So I just went up right twice with .1 plus space. If I want to move to the right, I could use my right arrow, or I could press .6 with space.
Document stash shortcut, 11 of 15.
Right, and again,
recycle bin, 1 of 15.
I can do that, so I can move left and right. So right would be .6 with space, left would be .3 with space. So your up, down, left, right, again, up and down being dot 1 with spaces up, dot 4 with spaces down, left would be dot 3 with space, right would be dot 6 with space, and this is true across all of our Braille displays. If you want to activate something, you can press enter or dot 8. That is your right pinky, right? So you can always do that. If you're looking to get to the start menu, because again, maybe you don't have the application you're looking for on your desktop, if you want to go to the start menu, you can press dots 3, 4. So think of the ST contraction here in contracted UEB Braille. But dots 3, 4 with space will open the start menu. Again, the equivalent being the Windows key on your keyboard. So dots 3, 4 with space.
Search box edit.
And I'm brought into my search box where I could type in the name of an application I want to open, like Microsoft Word. So if I wanted Word, I can type in W, and we can bring up Word, and I can press enter.
Word app. Press right to switch preview. Opening dash Word. List box Word. New list
And I'm going to
box.
press
Blank document.
enter
1 of 5.
here on a blank document.
Print edit.
All right. So again, 3, 4 with space will move your focus to the start menu. And at that point, you can type in what you're looking for into Cortana. Again, we're using Windows 10. If you are using Windows 7, wah, 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 no longer supported. So, and that's a Windows thing, not a Braille thing. We can still work with Windows 7 with our Braille displays. We can find you the command summaries, but you definitely at some point are going to have to make that switch. So, I am in a Word document, just want to talk about some very basic navigation and editing commands. What I will do is kind of show, again, I can type directly into this file using the Braille keyboard. So if I type hello, right, I can do that.
Hello.
Right, my name. And I'm doing this in grade 2 Braille. You can always change those settings within JAWS.
Is Peter, period.
Right, and I have my key echo set to words. Again, all of those settings, they're not Brailliant specific. You're going to have to customize your key echo or customize your grade of Braille entry. All of that is driven by the screen reader. There are Braille shortcuts that will help you manipulate those settings, but again, they're far more advanced, and those would come at a later point in time. Once I've typed sentences and I want to look at something, there are some basic navigation commands that I'll talk about. So just like on our Braille notes, or when Andrew gets up over to the iOS side, if I press L with space or 1, 2, 3 with space, I will move my focus to the top of this document.
Top. Hello, my name is Peter.
It's going to read what's out loud, right, in that first line. If I press 4, 5, 6, so again, the opposite of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with space will move me to the bottom of my file.
Bottom. Hello, my name is Peter.
And it's going to read it because I only have one sentence here. Now, if I want to move through, and again, the keyboard equivalents, Control Home would be to go to the top, and Control End would be to go to the bottom. And those come in as being JAWS commands. It's very important to learn your Windows and JAWS commands in addition to some of these commands that you can do directly from the Braille keyboard. Now I'm going to come back to the top.
Top. Hello, my name is
and
Peter.
Talk about how do we navigate this using speech or Braille. So we can route our cursor. Again, above every Braille cell, we have a cursor router key, just like we do on our BrailleNote Touch and Touch Pluses. On the BrailleNote 14, that cursor router key is actually a sensor, which is driven by touch. So we can route our cursor to a direct spot and edit, or we can use our arrow keys to move through this file in different ways. Remember, our right arrow is dot 6 with space. So if I press dot 6 with space, or the right arrow, it's going to move me through this character by character.
E, L, L, O, space, M, Y, space, N, A, M, E, space.
Right, and I can move through this character by character. If I want to move word by word, this is where I would, on the BrailleNote, I'm going to use Command key 2. So not dot 2 on the Braille keyboard, but Command key 2, which is on the left side of your Braille display to move your focus backward, word by word.
Name, my, hello.
And to move forward, word by word, I would press Command key 5.
My name is Peter.
Right. On the BrailleNote 14, you're going to use dot 5 with space and dot 2 with space. Because again, the BrailleNote 14 does not have command keys. And you can also emulate these commands on your Touch and Touch Plus. Now, if I want to move through this line by line, I would use dot 4 with space or dot 1 with space. Again, my up and down arrows. I only have one line here, so it's not going to really move me up and down line by line at this point, but I could do that as well. So dot 4 with space and dot 1 with space, again, emulate that up and down arrow so you're going to be able to move through. Now, there are so many JAWS commands and so many ways to emulate commands here, but I want to talk about two others. One is, how do we get into the menu bar? I had mentioned earlier when we were in those JAWS settings that, in the JAWS window that is, I pressed Alt to get into the menu bar. And we know that that will bring up the menu bar here in Word. If we want to do it from the Braille keyboard, I can press M as in menu, right? Sounds familiar with what we've been talking about on the Touch and Touch Plus. M with space.
Upper ribbon, home tab, Alt followed by H.
And now it is going to be a matter of knowing where things are. Everyone's favorite place, the ribbon menu. Being able to find what you're looking for, and knowing that generally there are a tremendous amount of Microsoft Word shortcuts. Everything from centering lines of text to making headings or bullets or font adjustments, centering, alignment, all of those things have keyboard equivalents. So you can learn those so you don't have to wander around through the menu bar. But M with space is how you will get into the menu bar, or it's the equivalent of pressing the Alt key. Here, a quick way of pressing the Alt key. Now, if I press space with E, I will exit or escape a context. So space with E.
Escape, leaving menus, leaving ribbons, edit.
Will bring me back into my document. So space with E is the same thing as pressing my escape key. Those commands, if you're looking for a good way to get started with a student, or if you're just starting with a user, again, you're barely scratching the surface. Barely scratching the surface. But what this does is it gets us going, right? We want to have a Braille output in Braille with us when we're using the screen reader, whether it's JAWS, whether it's NVDA, whether it's VoiceOver on the Mac or iOS. You could be using some other screen readers. There are others out there that are supported, but Braille is what we believe in. We're very much a Braille-centric company, and we want you to have Braille output while you're working with these products. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it over to Andrew. And Andrew's going to talk about how to pair and work with some very basic commands in iOS. Then he's going to toss it back to me, and I'll talk about some more web-based commands and get into some keyboard emulation. So how would we press Alt F4 from the Brilliant? How would we, move around a web page and things like that? So Andrew is sharing a screen. I'm going to stop screen share and throw it over to you, Mr. Andy.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm very impressed with your clutter-free desktop, Pete, gotta say.
Oh, you should see how hard I try. I have to do like spring cleaning, but like every third of the month.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through how we establish the pairing of a Brilliant BI 40, 32 if you've got any 32s. This would apply to pairing with any of our Braille displays. Followed from that, we'll go through some top 10 shortcuts that will at least get you started using your Braille display with iOS. And then we'll finish off on how we can access the help menu and escape the help menu. Okay, so let me just turn VoiceOver on.
VoiceOver on. Calendar. Thursday, 09 April.
Okay, so that should all be coming through.
Open.
The first thing we need to do is navigate to the settings. Now, we can do swipe gestures. I'm not here to teach you how to do the swipe gestures at this stage. I'm currently using the touch screen without a Braille display because we want to establish the pairing. So in this case, I can either swipe right or swipe left, or I can just hover my finger and just go around the screen
App Store.
until I get the
Remote
settings.
settings.
Okay,
Two
once
new
I'm
items.
on the settings, I can double tap.
Double tap.
And
Settings.
now, again, I'm going to swipe.
One blue V note do not screen general accessibility button.
So swipe to the accessibility button, and I'm going to double tap on accessibility.
Accessibility features help you customize your vision. VoiceOver on button.
Okay. Again, I'm going to swipe right to my VoiceOver, which is currently on. So again, I double tap on VoiceOver.
Accessibility back button.
And in VoiceOver, this is where you would change anything related to the screen reader. So from your speech to your Braille to your audio to your rotor commands for those that are more advanced users on the iOS. This is where you probably want to go into to change some of those settings. At this stage now, what we then need to navigate is to Braille. So as I swipe right again.
Voice, tap, speak, verbal, Braille. Brilliant BI. 3, 2, output. Contracted. Button.
Okay, and I've double tapped on Braille. So in the Braille settings, anything related to the Braille itself. So here we have a few options from how do you want our Braille to be displayed on our actual display? Do you want to be displayed in contracted or uncontracted? Again, we'll have another way of inputting. Do you want it in contracted Braille? Auto translations. There's various of different settings that we can do that relates to Braille, and this is where you need to change all of those. But further down the bottom, this is where you go to choose your Braille display. Now I'm already connected, but I just want to show you where it will actually be located. So as I carry on swiping towards the end, you'll come across a choose a Braille display. The next swipe forward then will give me what is available, providing you've got your Bluetooth enabled. It's really important if you have got a BrailleNote BI that you have selected the HumanWare protocol. Peter touched base on working with the HID protocol. So if it's not, if you're connecting to Bluetooth on iOS and you have a BrailleNote BI, make sure that you change that protocol to HumanWare. To change that protocol on the Braille display, double tap the power button. You'll hear a beep to get you into those settings. Continue using your far rightmost thumb key to navigate until you get to the word protocols, and it will list what is available. So it will be either HumanWare or Open Braille. If it's set to Open Braille, toggle it by pressing the inner thumb key. That will then change it to HumanWare. So that's really important. Otherwise, you would not be able to get your HumanWare Braille display to work with the iOS device. So let's continue to navigate all the way to the bottom.
In Braille stick, turn word alert key debug, choose a Braille display.
So the next swipe then will give me a list of all my displays that it can see, and
in progress, select more info. Selected. BrailleNote BI. 3, 2, 0, 0, 4, 0, 0, 1. Connected. Connected. Button.
Okay, so it gives
Actions
you the information.
Available.
Gives you the information of what is the Braille display, gives you a serial number, and if that is the Braille display that you want to connect to, double tap, you'll then get a notification to say pair, and you double tap the pair button. Once you've paired, then it will just stay connected. So I'm now connected to my Braille display. I'm going to go through some top 10 shortcuts to get you started. The first one being is how do we get to the home screen? Really simple command to remember, and because if you haven't got the home button, so some of the iPhones now, I have the iPhone 11, they don't have the home buttons. It took a while for me to get used to, in fact, actually, but yes, you can press the home button if you have got that physical button. If you haven't, if you just want to stick with Braille, then H with the letters, space with the letter H together, the home, will take me back.
Set.
Okay, so space with the letter H will take me back to my home screen. So I'm on my home screen and I want to navigate around the home screen. How do I navigate to the top? How do I navigate to the bottom? And similar commands to what Peter was saying within JAWS. So if we want to get to that first top left item of our screen, we can press space with dots 1, 2, and 3.
Calendar. Thursday 09 April. Double tap to open.
Again, if we want to go to the bottom, the last item on our screen, we do the opposite. So again, imagine that mirror line in between your dots 1 and 4. So the opposites of space 1, 2, 3 is space 4, 5, 6. That's going to take us back down to the very bottom of the last item.
Dock. Safari.
Okay, and at the
Double
moment,
tap to open.
Safari is at the bottom of my docs. If you're using, your phones will vary depending on your dock. You can customize your dock. So I'm going to go back up to my top.
Calendar. Thursday 09 April. Double tap to open.
So how can we mimic swiping right and swiping left as we do on the touchscreen? Well, we can use space with dot 4. That will take you forward.
Photos. Camera. Maps. Clock. 1725. Double tap A space.
And we can use space dot 1 to take us left.
Maps. Camera. Photos. Calendar. Thursday 09 April. Double tap to open.
Now, there are other ways of searching for certain applications on your home screen. iOS introduced a command space with the letter F. It is temperamental. It doesn't always work for me. So by all means, you can try that. So you can press space and F and then type in the application that you're trying to get to. But of course, that app needs to be visually on that screen as well on that item. If it's not on that screen, so of course, we can have multiple pages here. If we want to turn over the page, then we can simply press space with the letter O. Space and O will turn over my page. And this is where you're going to hear all of my applications now.
Page 3 of 8. FaceTime. Page 4 of 8. Dropbox. Double tap to open.
Okay, so space and O will turn over the page, turn right a page. If you want to go to the previous page, so turn left a page, then we do space with O, W. So again, opposite of that space and O command. So space O, W.
Page 3 of 8. FaceTime. Home. Page 2 of 8. Calendar. Thursday 09 April.
Okay,
Double tap to open.
That's how we do some general navigation, turning over the page, swiping right using Braille keys. We can actually use our far rightmost thumb key and our previous item key, which is the far left, to go backwards and forwards as well. So instead of pressing space dot 4, you can press that far right next item button, and instead of pressing space dot 1, you can press the previous item button, which is the furthest, the far left thumb key. When you're on an item, so to select an item, there are two ways to mimic the double tap. And that would be to press on the cursor. So any one of those cursor keys that you have on top of your Braille display, you can select. Or you can use the Perkins keys and press space 3 and 6. So you'd have two options there. So if I want to go into, let's say, my clock, so I'm going to navigate to
Photo,
clock.
camera, maps, clock, 1728. Clock, edit, button.
Okay, and I've just pressed the cursor there, and for those that can see my screen, will be able to see the time that I'm currently in. I'll move over to the time.
Well, London, selected, London, today, plus 0 hours, 17:28.
So it's getting pretty late
Actions
here.
available.
Ready for my dinner soon. Okay, so that's some just general navigation. I'm going to go back to my home screen. I'm going to press space with the letter H to go back.
Clock.
Some other useful commands. Now, some of you may have heard about this. It's the
1729.
two-finger double tap, also better known as the magic tap, which can be used to play, pause music, but also answering a phone call. It's, as I said, it's equivalent for those two-finger double tap. That may come in handy, so if someone wants to call me, hopefully they're not going to call me now, but I can press that the space 1, 5, and 6, which will activate the answer button. I will use that though, so I'm going to navigate to my Amazon Music application just to show you how we can actually play and pause that music using that action key, and also turn the volume up, turn the volume down, and then lastly finish off with speech off, how you turn your speech off, and pause speech. In fact, I'm probably covering more than top 10 shortcuts here, Peter. So I'm going to navigate to my Amazon Music. So I'm going to turn over my page.
Hey, you can cover as many commands as you want, man.
Page 4
in
of
total
8.
control.
Page 5 of 8. Pages.
Okay, so I know it's on page
Double
5.
you
Around here
quick CT test by Amazon Uber. Amazon Music. Double tap to open.
Okay, so I'm on Amazon Music. I'm going to press my cursor key to select.
Amazon Music. Connected to AirPlay.
At this stage, to activate that play pause, you do initially need to press the play button. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it can actually, if I'm going to navigate to the play button first, and then I'm going to use a double tap gesture. I don't think it will work. I will try space 156 now, just in case it sometimes does work.
It might work because you were previously playing it. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. But that volume's a bit too high. So I'm going to show you how to turn the volume down. So to turn the volume down, we can press space with dots 1, 2, and 6. That's the GH sign. Space with GH contraction. So space 1, 2, and 6 will turn my volume down. Of course, I'm not getting any feedback at this stage, but once you have something playing, of course, it will decrease the music. If you want to increase the volume up, it's the opposite keys again. So this time it will be space with the AR contraction. So that's space with dots 3, 4, and 5. Space 3, 4, and 5 will increase my volume. So I'm going to play, and I'm going to mess around with the volume. So here we go. I'm going to press my magic tap key, space 1, 5, 6. Fading away. So till. Great quality choice of music I have. And then I was increasing and decreasing the volume at that point as well. Okay, back to my home screen, space with the letter H. And 2 more commands I'd like to go through. Turning the speech off. So not all the time you want to hear the speech time. Maybe you're really just focusing on the braille. The command for that is space with the letter M. Think of mute. I want to mute my speech. Space with that letter M
Speech off.
will turn my speech off. If I want to turn it back on again, it's a toggle action. Pressing that space M again
Speech on.
will turn it back on. If you want to pause the speech at any point, so perhaps you're listening to a book and there's a knock at the door delivering your Uber Eats, you perhaps want to pause your speech. Space with the letter P. Simple, P for pause. Space and P for pause. And again, to resume that, again, you'd press that space with the letter P again. So that's all my top 10, 12 shortcuts, I think there, Peter.
Bleeding through.
But all the voiceover commands, that have QWERTY keys, have gestures, they all have relevant Braille commands. And what's really cool on one of their recent updates, I say recent, probably a while back now, maybe a couple of years ago, it allows you to customize your commands. So the commands that I've gone through is the default keys that Apple have assigned. But that's not to say you can assign your own commands. What I tend to do is I'm so used to the BrailleNote Touch that I like to change my commands that match my BrailleNote Touch commands. Saves me having to remember new commands each time. I just like to have a better workflow like that. Sorry, I forgot the help menu, Peter.
That's right. That's a big one. Because the beauty of it is, so with the help menu that Andrew's about to show, and I will show you the same thing with JAWS, you're able to come in, if you're afraid, right, which you never should be, never be afraid to explore, but if you are, you can come in and press commands and it will tell you what they do without worrying about messing anything up.
Cool. So I'm going to press the space with the letter K. That is the help menu, space with the letter K.
Starting help. To stop help, perform a 4-finger double tap or 2-finger scrub, or press escape on the keyboard.
Okay, so I'm in the help menu, and just to show you what it can do, let's use that magic tap key. So space 156. Let's listen to what it's going to say.
.1, .5, .6, space bar, magic tap.
There we go. It's told me exactly what it will do. If I press space 1, 2, 3, what does that do?
.1, .2, .3, space bar, move to first item.
There we have it. Now to exit the help menu, it did prompt you. You can double tap the 4 fingers, but if you're using the Braille keyboard, then you can press space with B. Space B is mostly used to exit or associate to a back button. So space and letter B.
Escape. Stopping help.
And then I'm back at my home screen. And there we have it. So to summarize, we know how to establish that pairing. We know how to go to the top, to the bottom of our screens. We know how to swipe right and swipe left using our Braille keys, space 4 and space 1. Turning over that page is that space with the letter W, space with the letter O. And to go left a page, space OW. And the magic tap finger, that was something I've learned recently, that magic tap, Peter. So thanks for telling me about that. That's pretty cool.
It's a good one to know, because a lot of
Yeah.
times you're listening to a stream or you're doing something and you want to pause that audio stream or pause your song or answer a phone call or hang up a phone call. And that magic tap can do it. I will say, when you're on a phone call, your Braille display is not connected. So your magic tap will not hang up your phone call using a Braille display. But your 2-finger double tap is a magical command, hence why it's called magic tap.
And then let's not forget the pause in speech, space with the letter P. To mute your speech, space with the letter M. So again, think of that mute, M for mute. And lastly, the volume up, space with a R chord, and then volume down, space with the GH sign. That is it.
All right, now I am going to take back over. So I'm going to share my screen. Andrew, I think you need to stop. We have it set, so you need to stop first, my friend.
There you go.
Got it. All right. Now, I will take over control. We're going to say screen. And what I'm going to do is talk about browsing the web. So let me check my sound. Just want to make sure you can hear that, Andrew.
Windows D.
Do you hear that?
Yes, I can.
All right, rock and roll. So what I'm going to do is talk about some web browsing. Again, the hand raising and the chats are still disabled. We will re-enable them because we do want to answer questions, and we would love to take any that may pop up, but just keep in mind they are still muted. And actually, it's been great because I haven't gotten a lot of kind of entries and exits and things, which has been great. So I am going to show you some commands in Google Chrome. Google Chrome is the most used web browser in the world. I use it all the time, and we're going to look at how we can efficiently use it with the Brilliant Braille display. Sorry, I'm trying to load a document here as well. So what I'm going to do is, again, I want to open Chrome. We learned that pressing 3-4 with space will quickly move my focus to the start menu, so I'm going to do that.
Search box edit.
And I am going to type in just the first couple letters of Google Chrome. As soon as I type a G,
Google Chrome app, press right to
it's going to give me that Google Chrome automatically populates. I'm pressing enter.
Enter. Address and search bar edit, Control+L.
All right, now I am going to come to a website. So right away I'm in the search bar, and I feel that my cursor is flashing. So I know that I'm able to type here. I'm just going to come to our wonderful
www.humanware.com.
HumanWare website. I'm going to press enter. So again, it auto-filled. I'm just going to press enter.
Enter, humanware.com. United States Store graphic.
All right, now let's have some fun. So at this point, I'm on a website, and I want to navigate this website. And we looked at Chrome on the BrailleNote Touch Plus a couple of weeks ago, I think episode 3 of HumanWare Live, Live with Braille. We looked at how to use Google Chrome, and a lot of these things will be relatively similar because, again, we're using Chrome on the computer and we're using Chrome on the BrailleNote Touch Plus. So if I want to quickly move around, remember, by all means, I could press my down arrow and go through this whole website. And it will take me a long time, but I could press my down arrow and the equivalent being .4 with space, which would move my focus down item
COVID-19 link, click
item,
here to learn
by
blank.
item,
United
by
States
item,
Store
by
blank.
item. We get the point, but it's going to take me a very long time to move through this website. I could also use .1 with space and move up, item by item by item. However, if I want to move by those elements, those web elements, which are very important, and I received a question about is there a document that describes what web elements are? And the answer is no, they're just they're building blocks of web pages. So there are many different elements, and they're essentially just building blocks of the internet. They're actionable or kind of anchorable items. But if I press H, or as Andrew would say, H, right? I can move to the first heading on this page.
HumanWare visited heading level 1 link.
All right, I've visited that before, but if I keep pressing H.
Solutions that empower people with vision loss heading reveal 16i full H Brilliant by 14 Braille display heading level 2 link.
Right, and so I can move through the headings on this page. Now, if I want to move backward by heading, so let's say I wanted to get the Prodigy 16i heading. In JAWS, you would add Shift to the command, so Shift H would move you back. On the Braille display, if you add backspace to H, you will move up by that element.
Reveal 16i Full
So I
HD digital magnifier heading left.
just pressed backspace with H, and again, that's the same as pressing Shift. So when you add backspace to your element, so for instance, if I'm looking at, let's say, edit boxes or buttons, if I press B,
Like page
there's a
button.
like page, probably for Facebook. If I press B again,
13 button.
13 button. If I press it again,
Play button.
play button. Now, if I add backspace to B, I will move up by those buttons.
13 button. Like page button.
And so on. So you can absolutely add Shift to your element. Again, H for heading, or B for button, or G for graphic, or there are so many of these that you can use. And again, it comes down to JAWS. You have to really know your JAWS web browsing to make these efficient. But that's how you're going to get somewhere. Now, one of the beautiful things in JAWS is if you know where you want to go, and you, let's say, in this case, just like a couple of weeks ago, I want to go to the support page. We want to find where these archives are, the webinars are archived. I want to find the support page. What I can do is I can always come to the top of my page with L plus space, or 1, 2, 3 with space, just like we did in our Word document.
HumanWare -home -low vision aids for macular degeneration.
I am able to activate various, sorts of command keys to make some things happen. So if I want to get a links list in JAWS, here, I can press command keys. So again, not the Braille dots, but command keys 3, 4, 6. The JAWS equivalent would be insert F7. If I press 3, 4, 6, again, on my command keys, I'm going to pull up a links list on this page. So we're going to do a 3, 4, 6.
Links list dialog. Links list view. Click here to learn more.
Right, and we're going to get the links list to appear. Insert F7 is the equivalent. On the BrailleNote 14, it is space with 3, 4, 6. So again, now at this point, I could press the first letter of the link I want. So if I want support, I, in theory, could just press my letter S.
Spread the
and come down. Oops.
S about US. Click here. Info S support 10 of 83.
And I can move to the link I want and press enter on it.
Enter. HumanWare -home -low vision aids for macular degeneration visited link to region blank.
Right, and now I'm on the support page. And remember, we saw that we can use kind of, our H to move by headings, or there are many ways to navigate this page. There's no right or wrong answer here in terms of how you want to find something. JAWS has find commands and so on. Now, if we wanted to, let's just say, okay, well, I didn't mean to activate this page, right? I didn't mean to come to support. I want to move back a page in my web session. So we know when we use Microsoft Word, when we use the keyboard, we can press Alt left arrow to move back a page. Here, we would press command keys 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Now, on your BrailleNote 14, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 with space. And when I do that, I move back to the previous page in my web session. Again, you could always press Alt left arrow. There's no right or wrong way to do this, and I'd strongly encourage learning the keyboard commands. It's very important. We all need to have good keyboarding skills, and they're going to come in handy. So if we can, it's just sometimes beneficial if we have our Braille display on our lap and we don't want to touch the keyboard, we can use these commands and quickly emulate all functions of our keyboard. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, again, command keys 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, move you back a page in your web browsing session. If you want to move forward a page, it's going to be kind of the opposite of that. So we think about that 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 moving us back. Now I'll show you if we're unsure of what something does, right? Andrew said, well, on the iPhone, K with space turns on keyboard help. On the BrailleNote BI 40 and 32, we can press command keys 1, 2, 5. So that will turn on my keyboard help here. And I'm doing this because
on.
Now it says on, and again, yours should say keyboard help on, or because I have my JAWS verbosity somewhat changed. But once I'm in here now, when I press a command, it will tell me what it does. So we think of the opposite of command keys to go back. If I press
Braille C1 plus C2 plus C3 plus C5 plus C6 loads the previously opened web page.
That would be my previous page, which we just did. And the opposite,
Braille C2 plus C3 plus C4 plus C5 plus C6 loads the next opened web page.
What that means is it moves me forward a page in my browsing session. So if I turn keyboard help off, again, command keys 1, 2, 5.
Off.
And now I try that forward command, it should bring me back to that support page.
HumanWare-home-low vision aids for macular
And sure
blank.
enough, it will if I press H here.
Human support
Right,
heading
we're
level
on the
1.
support page. So you can move backwards and forwards in your web browsing session with those commands. Same thing as pressing Alt left or Alt right on your keyboard. All right, a couple of other just kind of general commands here. There are ways to emulate all sorts of things. We've looked at some, and this will come down to your knowledge of JAWS. Remember, your knowledge of your screen reader drives Braille support. Your knowledge of your screen reader drives that Braille support, because if you don't know the screen reader command, the equivalent's not really going to make sense. And the screen reader controls the Braille output. So when I'm in here, we can emulate all keyboard keys on the Brilliant Braille display. I can press Alt-D to get to the address bar, or Control F4 to close the window, and so on. We can emulate all of those keys, and it can be very confusing and can be very challenging. So for many of our users, it's easier just to use the keyboard. However, if you just don't want to do that, you don't have to. If I wanted to press Alt-D, for instance, to go to the address bar here, I can emulate Alt, Control, Insert, all of those keys directly from my keyboard. The trick here is we press space with Enter, so space with .8 or space with Enter, combined with other keys to emulate the modifiers. So, and again, this gets very high level very quick, but if I wanted to press Alt or Windows or Control, I would use .1, 2, or 3 to do that. So again, .8 with space plus either .1, which would be our Windows key, .2 would be our Alt key, .3 would be our Control key, and so on. So if I wanted to press Alt-D, I would press .8 with space and .2, right? So that will be my Alt, and then I would press the letter D.
Alt-D selected. Support
And it brings me
HumanWare.
to my address bar. And again, this is some finger acrobatics, my friends. There's no doubt about it. And so if this is something that you don't want to use or find challenging, you don't have to do it. But know that you can emulate all of the modifier keys on your keyboard. Control, Alt, Windows, Insert, and all of that. A couple other quick ones. I'm going to come back to my webpage. I'm just going to press F6 here.
F6. HumanWare-F6.
Right.
Blank.
So
Owning any text.
we're on our webpage now. If I want to, these are very, very kind of useful ones. If I want to get the title of the active window, I can press Command keys 2, 3, 5, 6. So again, like a T, but on the command keys, not on the Braille dots, but on a command keys. So 2, 3, 5, 6.
HumanWare-home-low vision aids for macular degeneration.
The title of my active window. If you're on a BrailleNote 14, that command is space with the letter I, as in information. If I want to get the time, everyone wants to know the time. Andrew showed us that he uses military time because he's really cool and he's in 0 GMT. I think he was showing off a little bit, but I am not. I am in the good old state of Illinois, sheltering in place here in Chicago, as we heard in the intro. Space with nothing. Command keys 1, 3, 5, 6.
11:48
It's
a.m.
going to tell me the current time, and it's 11:48 here in Chicago. Again, and that Braille equivalent on the BrailleNote 14 is space with Z. So command keys 1, 3, 5, 6, I should say. Again, space with Z, and all of these can be very, very useful or unuseful, just depending on what your needs are. The Braille display can be used, but I would encourage you to learn the JAWS command. So when you're using JAWS, insert F12 gives you the time. If you press it twice quickly, it gives you the date. Another useful command, and I'm going to kind of wrap it up in a moment because I could go all day with these sorts of commands and they can get very overwhelming and get pretty crazy. You can bring your bring your shift tab and tab plays into play here. So again, if I turn on keyboard help, I'm just going to press command keys 1, 2, 5.
On.
And I'm going to show you if I press K with space here.
Shift plus tab sends the shift tab keystroke through to the application.
Right, so that would activate shift tab. But if I press 4, 6 with space.
Tab sends the tab key through to the application.
It would activate my tab key. So I could tab through the links. We know when you use JAWS on the web, when you press tab, it moves you through all the links on a page. So you can come in. I strongly encourage you, open keyboard help on your whether you're using JAWS, whether you're using NVDA, whether you're using VoiceOver. you really want to utilize this to help you learn what commands do without actually doing them. I can press random commands. Let's try command keys 2, 3, 5, 6.
Braille C2 plus C3 plus C5 plus C6 provides the user with a list box containing the names of all the system tray icons.
All right, all the system tray. So move your focus to the system tray. Same thing as insert F11, and so on. You can do that from the keyboard as well. Just to give you an example, if I press insert T, so remember how I did that on my Braille on my Brailleant, I press command keys 2, 3, 4, 5 to kind of get that Braille T to get the title of the active window. If I do insert T here,
insert plus T says the title of the active window within an application or the application title itself.
right? Or if I do it down here on my Braille keyboard, same thing.
Braille C2 plus C3 plus C4 plus C5 says the title of the active window within an application or the application title itself.
Again, might be confusing, but I would encourage you to play around with this to learn what those different commands do. And then to turn off keyboard help, you can use command keys 1, 2, 5 again,
off,
and so on. So there are many ways to utilize this. I think the driving force here is to have Braille while we're using our screen reader, whatever that screen reader may be. Andrew, have we confused anybody?
I hope not. But here's a question. Here's a question for you, Peter. I mean, again, like the BrailleNote with the iOS, he was able to change some of the commands. Is this possible with your system, with your setup?
So you can go into JAWS. That would be, it's a kind of a deep level JAWS question. You can customize Braille commands, and you can customize pretty much anything in JAWS using your keyboard manager and using your JAWS sort of, some of the settings center. And there are ways to do that. It is definitely not as straightforward as the iPhone. You really, that is for some advanced JAWS users, but you can customize what your keyboard does. Yes. That would be something you would really have to take from kind of the JAWS side of things. A lot of this Braille is driven by JAWS. So you absolutely can. I think, Andrew, if you can you unlock the hand raising and the chatting and all of that great portion of this Zoom client so that we can try. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so everyone doesn't get bombarded with things.
Alt-S alert.
All right. Now at this point, we are going to open up hand raising. We're going to open up the chat side. So if you have a question, the Q&A, the chat side, please feel free. I know this was quite a bit of info.
Okay, so you can now raise your hand. You can now send chat messages, and of course we can go through Q&A as well. There's been a few Q&As that have come through.
So the first one on the chat side was about accessing Brf files if you don't have a Braille note taker. I would recommend, and I'm not sure what you would think, Andrew, but using something like Duxbury, which is a Braille translator. You could open BRFs there. You could open them using Braille Blaster, which would be the APH free sort of Braille translator as well. You need to have a Braille translation program to open BRF files.
Cool. There was one question came through. Does the HumanBuddy app have the JAWS commands we can use? The answer is yes. So there is a quick sort of guide on, again, some top commands that you can use with JAWS, and of course iOS and a Braille display. So again, you can certainly view those on the application. I noticed there is a few people wanting to have some other screen readers being shown to us. Supernova, Android. These are all compatible. Maybe this is something that we can do on a future webinar. So maybe show some.
Any screen reader that has Braille support, I mean, including Voice View, or there are many out there. We have command summaries available that you can certainly look at. Again, even with what we did today, we barely scratched the surface. This could go on for for quite a while. So it's definitely something we can look at. Yeah.
Here's a good one. So can you at some point do a rundown of the differences between the BrailleNote and the Touch Plus as Braille terminals? So I'll answer that briefly. So as Braille terminals, most of the commands, I say most of the commands, are generally the same. There are a few exceptions. There's the screen curtain. If you decide to do space H, for example, for the help, there is a bypass command that you'll need to press. Do you remember that bypass command, Peter?
So on the Apex, and I believe it's similar on the Touch and Touch Plus, it's 456 enter. Should be the bypass command, but I need to verify that. But yes, some commands, and in JAWS, there's a bypass command as well, because sometimes you need to push a command through to an application and you don't want it to activate the JAWS command. So you can use insert with the number 3 to push that JAWS, that's the JAWS bypass key. So that will, again, that's a far advanced sort of thing, but you can activate and push through native keystrokes.
Good stuff. Okay, let's go to those that have raised their hands. So we're going to unmute Mrs. Horter. Hello, Mrs. Horter.
Hi, how are you?
We are
Very well.
wonderful. How are you?
I'm okay.
Awesome.
So I thought, Peter, you said that you couldn't do this with the BrailleNote Touch Plus, but then I thought I saw that as one of the options in the setup.
Yeah, you can certainly do this with the BrailleNote Touch Plus. You can absolutely do this. You can. What I was saying is, I wasn't going to give any of the commands today because I wasn't going to start to do 4 equivalents for kind of using the Braille displays. But you can use your Braille display, your BrailleNote Touch Plus as a Braille terminal with JAWS or with any of the screen readers.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So next we have Judy. Judy's on. Hello, Judy.
Hello.
Hello.
I have a question for you, Andrew. I was trying to follow along to pair my iOS device and with my BrailleNote Touch Plus, and I got stuck because it's saying that the device is unsupported. That's the message that comes up. So
Okay.
I'm just wondering, have I not done, I mean, what was that command? You said something about pushing a button twice on the side button, and I like, well, to make something come up that has to say HumanWare or something.
Okay, so the first thing is on the BrailleNote Touch, there is a slight difference. So what you'll need to do on the Touch Plus and the Touch is navigate to Braille Terminal first. So in the main menu, there's a Braille Terminal.
Got it, yes.
Select that, and then you'll have 2 choices, Bluetooth and USB. If you choose Bluetooth and then press Enter, that becomes Bluetooth ready. So then you'll proceed on exactly what I showed before. So you go to your settings, accessibility.
Right, and that kind of ties into where as well. I mean, like when we were looking at today, when we did this with the BrailleNote BI 40 and 14 in mind, and I had said I'm not doing this with the Plus because the processes are not the same.
Okay.
So you would go into the terminal, and then there's a different methodology to getting that connected, a different workflow.
Sure, but
if you're
but
following
that's
along,
why
it definitely wouldn't work.
Yeah, it didn't. So okay, so that was my. I guess I just need to go through and then follow the prompts from there. Once I'm in the Braille terminal and I get that ready, then I go to settings and do everything from there. Okay.
Yes, once you're in Bluetooth in the Braille terminal, then you would go to settings, and then you also have to contend with a notification that will pop up on your BrailleNote Touch Plus, because again, it's and you need to interact with that and say pair on both sides. So the process would be different. We can definitely cover that in a later webinar if you're trying to pair your BrailleNote
I think I got it, but I just couldn't remember what to do. Now, the other question I have is, can I pair? I have an iMac computer. And that's what I have at home. I thought this was going to be a lifesaver for me since I was pretty familiar with iDevices, but holy cow, that is a lot different than using a Windows computer in JAWS, which I'm used to at work. But now with this shutdown, I'm like, oh my gosh. So do you think it would be easier for me to try to use my Braille display would it work with my iMac?
It certainly will, but I will tell you that VoiceOver Braille support on the Mac side is not nearly as comprehensive as it would be on the JAWS side or even on the VoiceOver side. There are many commands that are lacking. All of those commands you can get into keyboard help and play around, but you will find that there are some things that just don't exist as of yet. So
So your better suggestion for me is to just dig in and learn my iMac, huh?
Oh yeah. I mean, I would strongly recommend using a Braille display with it to reinforce what you're hearing, but don't rely on trying to control your Mac from your Braille display, because you will find some things that just aren't there.
Okay.
Much like
All right.
Windows, I always encourage, have your Braille display, do what you prefer, but I use it a lot for reading, not
Yeah.
as much for driving. However, we have lots
Yeah.
of deaf-blind users and lots of other users who say, you know what, I keep my computer closed and just drive the whole thing from my BrailleNote or from my BrailleNote
Uh-huh.
Touch or Touch Plus. So up to you, but you will find some things that are not there. But thanks a lot, Judy.
Do you know if there's any, where's the best place for me to find a list of the VO commands and stuff in using, you know?
Oh, you're going to have to Google it up. Google
Okay.
away. There are many, many places to find voiceover resources. I would go to Apple Viz and I would start
Okay.
there.
Okay.
And I would really dig in. There are many resources out there.
Thank you so much.
There's lots of them. So I would start with Apple Viz.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. What else we got? I think a couple things came through on the chat side.
Yes. Let's just go through some of these. So, trying to decide which display to buy, can I download your user guides? Yes, you can. Our user guides are available on our website at humanware.com. If you go to the support page, choose the product, and you'll have access to the user guides. If you're still unsure how to get them, then just by all means email us at humanwarelive@humanware.com, and we'll send you the link, or even better, send you the
Right, and I want to comment, we've been getting a lot of requests to add people or asking, where can I find information on these webinars? If you go to our website, there is a subscribe link. You can subscribe to our newsletters. And also, if you go to the support page on our website, there is a section there that says HumanWare Live. And that is where all of our webinars are archived, and also where the links are to the upcoming webinars. So keep that in mind if you're looking for where they are, and if you want to receive, you know, news from us when we're hosting a webinar, when we have product updates, you can subscribe right on our website.
Okay, some more coming in through the chat. Hi, I notice you use chord commands and sometimes the command keys for words. Can you use the keys for characters and lines too?
No, these are going to be, now, and again, this is specific to the BrailleNote 40 or 32. You're using the command keys for things like going word by word or for pulling up that list of links and so on. I'm not using the Braille keyboard. That's why I differentiate between when you use the keyboard, actual Braille keyboard keys, and when you use the command keys. When you're using the BrailleNote 14, you don't have command keys, so everything is done through chorded keys. Same thing with the Touch or Touch Plus. There are no command keys there. So everything is done through those chorded sort of commands, meaning add space to this letter or that letter. Alternatively, when you are kind of, you know, working with various screen readers, those command keys will be mapped differently. The other thing is when you're using an iPhone, everything can be done using either chorded, so using the Braille keyboard, or using the command keys. Doesn't matter.
Awesome. And I guess you could also customize those keys if you do really want to use the Perkins keys. You can customize that through JAWS.
Through JAWS, yeah, you'd have to do some digging. That's something we definitely wouldn't. You would have to get into your JAWS mojo and learn how to set up the Braille stuff that way.
Cool. Okay, so can the BrailleNote Touch Plus be connected? Can the BrailleNote Touch Plus be connected to Bluetooth with JAWS? Yes, it can. Tends to be a bit more of a tedious process when you're using Bluetooth with Windows system. I always would recommend to use a USB. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah,
but
it's because every computer is slightly different with Bluetooth management. You know, by all means, it will work. I see plenty of users using Bluetooth with Windows, but I would strongly recommend, just to get it up and going, to use USB. But it's going to differ based on your system. So you can absolutely use the Touch Plus, the original, you know, BrailleNote BI, the 14, the 40, the 32. Any of them as Bluetooth Braille displays with Windows. But the method of getting that connected will change depending on your computer, your COM ports, all of that stuff. There's a lot of moving parts that will go into play.
Okay, and last question on the chat is, can I pair my BI14 with my Android phone? How do you go about pairing Android with these devices? So, well, firstly, you need to install BrailleBack. So BrailleBack is the actual Braille drivers, and that doesn't come by default. It's not like VoiceOver. So you'll need to install that from the Play Store. So that's Braille Back that you'll need to download. Once you've got that, then you'd pair your Bluetooth device through the Bluetooth settings.
Yep.
Once you've done that, you'll then go to your Braille Back settings. So within your Android environment, in your Braille Back settings, you'll have choose Braille Display, and from that will be a drop-down option where you can select the Braille Display that you've previously connected via Bluetooth. So it is a bit of a different setup. All these instructions are available on our website. So if you want to check out the user guides, check out the HumanWare Buddy app that will show you how to get connected on an Android device as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we have one or two more? Or we
have the usual Christian again. Christian, hello, Christian.
Christian, you're a frequent flyer on HumanWare Live.
Peter, can you hear me?
Absolutely. What is good, my friend?
So I was just kind of wondering, is there a way to do kind of like how you did with me back at AJB all those years ago? If you remember that, do you remember AJB?
Yeah. Is there a way to do what?
Is there a way to basically have us like, is there a way to basically have you kind of do like what you did over at AJB, but with like the Brilliant 40, so that a way I could like feel of it and like try all this?
Oh, you mean an in-person? Well, unfortunately right now, there is no one traveling pretty much for anything, but at some point in time as we move out and about, so for anybody out there, you know, we do lots of in-person trainings. We do lots of visits. We do all sorts of things. Whether, you know, if you're an adult consumer and you want to find us at a trade show, like, you know, one of the consumer shows. If you are in school, we do lots of workshops for teachers as well as students. Yeah, we can look at those things, Christian, but not right now, my friend. That's going to be probably several months away at this point. But at some point in time, if somebody's interested in demoing a product, we can always work with the dealer. So for you, Christian, you would, you know, in Texas would work with Crystal Vision, who's our dealer in Texas. If you're in another state, such as Florida, you know, you'd work with Florida Vision Reading, you know, and it's going to just depend on where you are and how we can get you a demo, but absolutely.
I was also kind of wondering whether you personally would be attending, if it's still going on, the NFB 2020 convention in like July, because it's finally.
If it's on, I'm there. If it's on, I'm there. Or we will be there. If there is a convention, absolutely. We're sponsors and we work very closely with the NFB and things. So yes, but.
Because it's finally down in my neck of the woods. So
I know, it's not far from
you.
I hope so.
Yeah,
well, thanks, Christian.
It's
we'll
finally
see you.
in my neck of the woods, so I will see you there.
Sounds like a plan. Well, you can come to our user groups.
Thanks very much, Christian. Okay, so another question just popped at the Q&A. And this is a very interesting question. Will HumanWare be releasing a HID-compatible Braille display similar to the Mantis? So there's going to be two questions, and I have two answers here about what is the Mantis. I'm sure people have been saying. And will HumanWare be releasing the HID-compatible driver that was being introduced from Microsoft, Apple, Google, and other Braille manufacturers? So to respond to the question about HumanWare releasing a HID-compatible Braille display, at the moment, screen readers such as JAWS haven't introduced the new HID driver yet. So that is something that we will be looking in the roadmap of our existing BI displays. Now the Mantis Q40, people are thinking, what is the Mantis? There's two Braille displays that HumanWare have been working on in partnership with APH, just to inform you. So there is the Mantis Q40. This is a 40-cell Braille display with a full QWERTY keyboard. That is available in the US on quota and off quota directly from APH. Those that are international, over Canada or anywhere else in the world, they will be provided by HumanWare. So HumanWare will be selling the Mantis Q40 More information on that can be, if you'd like, please contact us. You can email us at the sales team, or if you want, HumanWare Live at humanware.com. The second product we'll introduce is the Chameleon 20. Again, this is a product sold directly from APH that's going to be available on quota and off quota. And these displays will be coming very, very soon. If you contact APH, they'll give you an update on when that's going to be available. And I mean very, very soon.
All right. So
that leads us to our goodbyes.
We will say to take care, and we'll see everybody on, I guess on Tuesday. We're going to be covering, what are we covering, Andrew? I think it rhymes.
We're gonna be covering some fun stuff. So we're gonna be covering Google Sheets, food ordering, app management, but you had a better way of saying it because it was rhyming. Sheets
Uber
and
Eats
Eats.
and Sheets. That's right. So we're gonna look at some third-party apps. We will look at Google Sheets. I'll do some introduction pieces there, how to look at spreadsheets and kind of move around them and edit information into them, and then also looking at. I'm gonna order some food. We're gonna surprise my wife by ordering some crazy food for dinner, which will be fun. And then we'll throw it over to Andrew, who's gonna talk about app management. So installing, uninstalling, and also working with notifications so that you're not getting all those wild notifications when you when you pop into your BrailleNote Touch or Touch Plus. So how do you turn those off so that they're not dinging at you when you're trying to work or popping up on screen telling you something is updated and this and that and the other. So we'll look at that. And then Thursday, I think we're still somewhat undecided. So we're going to get that out. We'll share it with anybody. It'll go up on Facebook. We will email out a blast as well, and everyone will know what we're looking at.
Great stuff. And it's an Easter weekend, so have a great weekend. Stay safe and enjoy the weather. If you're still in the UK, I know there's going to be some great weather, so I'll be in my back garden. And
rub it in, Andrew. It's pretty chilly here in Chicago, so you enjoy.
Okay, well, take care, everyone. Goodbye from me.
Bye, everybody.